What is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, cloud swing traders? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. We made it. Last day of trading for the week. And that was definitely a wild week. So I don't know. I feel like it kind of went pretty quick. I thought it was a pretty quick week. Somehow we made it to the end. We get a 2 day break to digest everything that just happened. And we start again all on Monday once again. But we got Albert in the house. Good morning to you. Good morning to Anna, Andy, Bill, Bragg. Good morning to Cheryl, Chris, Corey, George, Jay, JT, Lawrence in the house. Good morning to Mike, Peter, Rob, Shane. We got Tim. Good morning to we got Clarice in YouTube land. All my lurkers in the background of YouTube. It's okay. I still love you. Hit that like and subscribe button. But I don't know. How do you guys think this week is gonna end? Do we just rally it up, close nice and strong, and then maybe next week we get a pullback? Maybe today is a little start of just a retracement. Some people might want to take some gains after just a crazy, crazy week. It doesn't seem like it from yesterday's candle. Yesterday's candle did close relatively strong. We had a tiny little wick on it. Even with today's move, we are pretty much opening flat, so nothing too crazy, not panic selling, nothing wild. Inside candle, I think we would look for 595.01. We'll call it 595 flat for some kind of support if it's going to just hang around, bounce a little bit, or we continue the rally. So I would think we get a little pullback. I would think a little pullback. I don't know. Maybe a little pullback into that 595. See if that holds. If it does, then I think we're looking back to probably the high of yesterday, 596.64. If we start breaking it under and we get some candles that close underneath the 595, I think we stay within this candle from yesterday, so that'd be 593.08. But if we do break, I'd be looking for is 591.05. So those are the levels I'd be looking at for today. For the SPY, we got the Qs. Peter says, hey, all after Fed yesterday, soft landing on the table. I really don't know. I don't think Jerome Powell. Yeah, so I listened to the entire Fed speech, entire Jerome Powell. There wasn't anything. We got the quarter point cut. I think that was kind of being priced in. So not a lot of movement. He didn't really answer too many questions, honestly. So he kind of, I think, just punted off, and that makes sense. So he was asked a lot of questions, general stuff, but for the most part, he deflected a lot. He really didn't get into too much. We had hardly any real reaction. I see Anna, you're raising your hand. I don't know if you have a question, but if you do, you can just type it into that chat. Um, Otherwise, yeah, I don't think really much really developed from where it was at. There was no descending Fed members that said, hey, I think things are a little bit wild. So I think in terms of stock market, how they like to use the word in line, I think for the most part it was in line for what we kind of expected. And there was nothing really that we have to kind of really focus on. Inflation, he said, was not really a concern. He said the core inflation was still a little bit too high, but for the most part, generally speaking, he's saying economy strong. Every other indicator says we're still a good. So he's still thinking, let's cut those rates. We'll see. But soft landing is the case that he would like to try to make. He would love to make that case. I would like to defer to March to really see how things start to develop. We will see. But Qs. Um, Again, a little bit of a pullback on the Qs, but we're still holding a really good spot. So this would be my retest spot that we're opening directly at. So let's see if we could hold here and pop on the Qs. That would be 512, 512.25-ish. Somewhere around there. I'd like to see hold if we start to break that level. I think again, looking back to uh 50% retracement of yesterday's candle, somewhere around the 511 zone. If we break that, I think we got the low of Friday. We get back into like 508.39 and then push it off to the weekend. If we start breaking underneath that, well, technically this is a retest gap that never really retested. And then ultimately longer term, I'll be looking for like a 503.28. So we'll see if there's a pullback, but everything it's just hanging in there for right now. It's not a lot of indication that we break absolutely bullish or not. And then otherwise, I would stick to the trend, which has been bullish. Tesla. And we got Upstart as well. Yep, Upstart reported yesterday. Tesla, we have again, we're probably looking for continuation depending on where this one wants to open. Right now, we are opening right into that support resistance from yesterday, into that VPOC. Anything above probably about 298. I would say northbound with yesterday's high as your first initial target, 299.71. Can we break it? Of course. We got massive bulls everywhere. I think the high was actually 299.75. Yep, 299.75. So that would be my target to the high side. That also puts us staring down that 300 number, big psychological whole number. So let's see if the bulls have the momentum to kind of break through that, and then Tesla probably goes wild, kind of like what we saw Amazon do. Otherwise, if we open anywhere under this 297.75 ish, I would look for the closing price of yesterday as some kind of support, maybe about a 50% retracement. Otherwise, ultimately, I think maybe we get down back to this 288.69 if we get some severe profit taking today. There's a lot of inflation in some of these contract negotiations lately. Maybe it can be offset by deregulation. Yeah, I mean that's been happening for a while. If you look at even if you look at anything in the oil fields, like the oil industry, there's a lot. Anything in, I mean, housing pricing is crazy, but there's so many. We were talking about Boxable the other day, where yeah, they want to try to manufacture these houses, but there's so much red tape that is each individual state as to different fire codes, different sprinkler systems, different electric codes, different everything, that it kind of makes it tough for these companies that would like to make a little bit more affordable housing, making in a factory. They got to go through all this red tape. So I think every specific industry, banking has a lot of it too, lending criterias, all that stuff. So there's definitely a lot of red tape, and a lot of people. Anything environmental is wild. I mean, trying to get a permit for any environmental project, you're spending more on the permits than some of these projects. It's crazy. Upstart is a 30% short float. They did have good earnings, up 59%, so they beat by 8 cents. They were expected a loss of 6 cents, so pretty strong earnings on that one. And then you got $12 million surprise to the upside in revenue. They are absolutely jamming right now. Good gap up. Like Jay said, they have a 30% short float. Um, I think the highest move, we got very close to 70. We didn't quite get there though. 69.33. You got a decent volume zone that kind of came in. I would say if you start breaking under 63.33, which is essentially that pivot, maybe get that pullback into like the 59.67 zone. Otherwise, if you do want to try to squeeze some of those bulls out, I'd be looking for initial targets at least up to like 68.19. Maybe that squeeze could go crazy and it just pushes from there. But for right now, it looks like 68.19 and then maybe 68.45 to the highs would be where I'm looking. But definitely some bears gonna get squozen out of this one. Some good old squozen. Yeah, we'll put this one on the list. We'll keep it up there. Upstarts. It's a good gap. It is a retest from yesterday as well. You're kind of in a decent high volume zone. I think if I was in this one anywhere prior to today, I think if I got in yesterday, I would probably want to take my profits, unless I'm a long-term believer in Upstart. But I think if I got in anywhere here, you had a good close yesterday, nice little gap up. You might be eyeing a much larger target, which maybe this one can get back up to some of these levels, even just running to like this one. I mean, to hit the all-time highs at 397. I think I don't know about that. But if I'm in this for a swing and I can get to 150 and I'm just holding on, I don't really care about the individual earnings. I'm like, yeah, let's get back up to that point at least. It's a pretty nice return, more than 100% gain to the higher side. So we'll see. But yeah, 30% short float. Definitely some bulls being burned. I did see coins, so let's go to Bitcoin first. Crypto was running crazy. Some of the altcoins started to pop. which we tend to see after Bitcoin itself has a good move. Then a lot of the smaller altcoins start to move as well. So for right now, really your big day on this one was Wednesday. Thursday, small inside day. Right now, it looks like we're kind of just hanging out too. I don't know. I think probably Coinbase makes more money off the altcoins than they probably do Bitcoin, to be honest. Usually heavier volume, probably higher fees, I would assume. So Bitcoin itself is just hanging out, but Coinbase did start to move higher. So decent open, nothing too crazy. You still got a big resistance on this one around 265.12. That gives us a decent amount of room to the upside if we could hit it. Otherwise, being inside candle, maybe we could get a small pullback at open, 254.84, and then look to break out. Otherwise, your first resistance would be the high of yesterday. That would take us to 259.69. So maybe a high wave candle we could take a break on, but I'd still continue to be bullish on this one. I like the spot where we're opening, so I have a longer term trend line. We managed to close now twice above it, and now we're getting our first open we've had in a long time above it as well. So again, small retest. To the extreme side, if we could break through that first zone, maybe could start picking it up around 250, 256. That would be a more accurate retest into that trend line, and then you get your bounce. Oh boy, SOLV. Let me get to TDD first. TTD. The trade desk. So they reported, looks like good earnings. Looks like they beat by 3.81%. Earnings per share, they beat by 7.8 on the revenue portion of things. At all-time highs. Yep. All-time highs. I don't know what their forecasts look like, but that is a significant gap down. Watch out at these levels. You do have it's a pretty decent gap and go to the downside, but you have probably support all the way down to like 117.73. So maybe get a little bit more movement to the downside, but I think eventually you're looking probably more for a fade on this one, even though it is a gap and go. I don't know if we get all the way back up to 131 today. I'd be astonished if we do, but otherwise to the high side, I would be looking for this 122.83 zone with an extended target to 124 maybe. But I think somewhere down this level, the overall trend has been absolutely bullish. You are getting a chance to get a discount on it. Again, I'm not sure what that forecast was. That's the only thing I would kind of look into if they lowered guidance, uh, maybe you get a little extra weakness in that thing. But otherwise, decent support. I think it bounces. You got ANET. I would check volume on this one. I feel like the volume for day trade is rough. Your spread right now is 84 cents, but that's still pre-market, so maybe that could tighten up a little bit. If it remains 84 cents, that's going to be a tough one to day trade. Here's another one. Gap down looks very similar to TTD. You are trapping some bulls on this one. I'd have to be cautious as to how far I think this one comes down. I think you got good support all the way down to like the 394.17 zone, and then extended target to the downside, 385.93. This one I wouldn't be as, but I think TDD has a better chance of bouncing off of these levels, or off of their levels, as opposed to this one. Just because I think you're a little also tight into some of that resistance where TDD, I think you have some room before you have some resistance, and possibly they both break out. You're right at the 20 EMA. Again, overall trend has been good. This is another stock that reported into all-time highs, even bullish that day. But at this point, we closed that gap, and we'll see. It wasn't bad earnings, though. Not bad earnings into decent support. Tends to lead to some kind of a pop. All right, let's check out SOLV. Just has been tearing up the charts lately. Do we continue? I don't see any pre-market info unless it's at like $700, and I gotta. Why? I just assumed it's probably at 700, but no. Yeah, so pre-market looks like it's opening essentially flat to where it was. So nothing crazy. Otherwise, that trend looks good. Honestly, we're getting through some key levels. I'd want to see 75.11 be taken out. Tim, you say it's at 77. I have the buy at 77. I got the sell at 76.40. So it looks like it would be higher, but my trading view is not giving me any of those. 77 last trade. Yeah. Be careful. That's still pre-market. That's still pre-market. Volume is probably extremely light on this one. So you get some crazy prints. But other than that, yeah, as long as we'll watch where this one opens. But I think if you're anywhere above the 75.14, so if you're coming in at 77, let's say that's an accurate print. Uh, let's put it at 77, roughly. And you still got that retest gap. You are gapping above support. I'd still see if this one wants to come back a little bit for day trade. 75.14. Retrace real quick, but overall trend has been bullish off the bottoms, so we're recovering. I do think the next target on this one probably would take you to 81.75, but just depending on I think where that. So sometimes that pre-market not exactly correct, so watch where that one opens at. Airbnb, the typical Airbnb after earnings move. Almost every earnings, I feel like they take a dip, and then even the next couple days they probably drop a little bit. They missed on earnings, not by much. You missed by a penny, so less than 0.5% miss from earnings per share. They did come in on the higher side for revenue. I didn't think the report was terrible. I didn't think it was that bad. But if you are a buy the dipper, this is definitely an interesting spot for it. You're right at a 200 EMA. You have the 20 closing in on you as well. You have a little bit of chop down here, even though this is a gap and go to the bear side. You might get some buyers trying to step in. Again, if you liked Airbnb at 147, you probably love it at 136. And you're right at that 200 with that 20 starting to pop you up into a zone where you have a lot of volumes. This is a good retest spot, I think. Um, I would actually watch to see if this one could go bullish today too. And when I say go bullish for trade, not a. Although if you're trying to get in there long term, it's probably not a horrible level. They have grown too, I think. So this quarter they reported 3.732. Last quarter was 3.74. Quarter before that, 2.14. So pretty decent growth. Valuation might still be a little high, but I would think this is a fair price if you're trying to buy it. If you're trying to get at least your initial starting position into Airbnb, I don't think this opening price is that horrific. But we will see. We will see. We got net NET. Man, all these things are gapping almost perfectly into support. So, uh, do we get a lot of fades today? Let's get net higher on this list. Mm, I feel like there was a company or two that I own that reported today. I'm trying to think of what it was too. I don't know, but look for some kind of support around 87.10, maybe 86.93. Otherwise, we might even hit that pre-market. Let's see if we did. Where did we get to? We got to 82.42 roughly. 82.42. So that's a little extended. Kind of looks a little like DraftKings. Monster initial move. Very close at 200. Already started getting bought up. From where we closed to that overall move, you are about halfway through that move now. Based on that range, this is a tough one. Otherwise, you do have some support. I would almost like it. I don't know if I like it to the short side. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna play this one. This is technically it technically is a bearish gap and go, but we've dropped. Those bulls came in. There's now people profitable already. You're sitting about halfway through that entire move from close to after the reaction. The only reason I would still probably lean a little bit more bullish is because you do have some support here, and maybe you could get some bids up to like 92.21. We'll see. Uh, the question again, the question is going to be: is buy the dipper still here? So far, They've proven they haven't gone anywhere. The market just closed at all-time highs yesterday. So, and I don't think we really have individual bad news. These earnings don't look horrible on a lot of these companies. Square came in. They actually missed though, by less than a penny, 0.09% earnings per share. Uh, they missed by 260 million. They were kind of running into these numbers again. Now you got another company. This one's a little bit of a retest. Maybe you have a better shot at a bounce on this one. But even that retest is inside that bull candle. So we just really had an inside day yesterday. Dropped down into support, into the 20. Maybe we could hold. Those numbers weren't great. Let me see. Is PayPal finding any inverse sympathy on this one? PayPal's gapping down a little bit too. Not much, but a tiny little bit. Mm, I was hoping if Square missed, PayPal just beat on earnings. I guess they still missed on the revenue side of things though. Earnings per share look good. But thought maybe we could get some separation from PayPal and Square. Not yet. Square ranged all the way to 66 after hours. Let's check that out. That's a crazy move. Yeah, all these moves they kind of look like DraftKings. Airbnb was actually up after hours. They reported they went wild and then they gave a whole bunch back. And yeah, Square dropped all the way to I have 64, 66, 64, 63 was the low of this candle. So extended moves that all just got bought right back. Um, I mean, if I'm zooming in on this chart, I think if you start breaking down to 72.11, that would take you to the next trip down. See, you got some double bottoms on it. You got looks like heavy support, kind of where we're at now. So let's throw this one higher. Maybe we can find a short. At least they didn't have good numbers, and you can short that one. But all concerned about some bigger levels of support on these things. Eyeballing, yep, makes sense. All right, we got Affirm, AFRM. We got 6 more minutes. There's another wild range. Clobbered on earnings. I don't know. I think it's more algo. That kind of looks exactly like the same exact trade we just looked at with Square. Let's check this one on a daily. Um, okay, so at least where we're opening, we got some room. If we want to, in open hours, close that gap up, 45.69. I don't know if that's going to be an easy trade. Probably get a lot of support somewhere around 47.70. If you start to lose that level, then I think this 45. Affirm actually might be one of my most favorite shorts today, at least. Just in terms of range and closing that gap, it looks like we probably closed most of that gap from the after hours. So I don't know how much this market wants to weigh in on that. We'll see. But that one's got some room in it. It has some room to the downside. No crazy spikes we got to get through. I think extended target 45.69. And if we get the market to pull back a little bit, which is it doing that right now? No, of course not. Of course not. I saw some red in there. I was like, oh, and then I scrolled my screen over so that they were just buying all that up. All right, AMD. And then we'll take a look at Intel. Um, tight range on this one. So we talked about this one in the swing trade room yesterday. For me, it's and where we're priced at right now, it's almost a do nothing zone. If you like it long term, and you probably 10 years from now the price is higher. I don't think you'd lose money in a longer sense of a time frame buying at 149. Obviously, if you could price the dollar cost average down, I think fantastic. Otherwise, I'm looking at this as going. This looks like a one, a two, a three. I think we're in a wave four on a daily. So if we get into this wave four, I don't know how far this one's going to go. There are a couple spots, but I think there's going to be probably one more push down. Maybe come on down, retest the zone somewhere around one, I don't know, 133 ish, somewhere around that field. So you did have a good retest here 2 days ago. Perfect little retest. We got the continuation. If I was to buy it long, which right now on this wave four, it looks bullish. My bigger question is I don't know where this thing is going to stop at. So I have a really good resistance, and we do have one more from yesterday still. So we have 149.76 we got to get through, basically the high, or basically the close of yesterday. If we could do that, I would have room up to like 152.28. That's where I got that last VPOC. We also got the 20. We got the 200 right there too. So that's gonna be a monster level, I think, to break through. Maybe that's where we can start that wave five to pull back one more time. Other than that, maybe we can get a little bit higher into like on a wick or something like that, 154.14. It's a tough level to get into, but that would also be where the 50% retracement is of this last drop. So I'm bullish for now. I think we're bullish on this wave. I would have to be a little concerned as far as to where we could get to before we get that overall daily pullback. So that's what I would be looking for on that one. INTC. Intel. Cruising for a bruising for the shorts. Um, it is a monster 3-day move. We are heading into a Friday, into a weekend pullback. If you do pull back and we could break underneath yesterday's candle, besides looking at like the lows of yesterday or opening price, 2509. Otherwise, that would take us into that 100 EMA. Otherwise, we have probably 2443 would be a really good buy spot if you could get that next rotation retest. Other than that, the trend has been bullish. We are gapping down a little bit. We have a little work to do on this one to get through that next VPOC. So if you're bullish on it, you're trying to find a spot, but you better believe this thing can get through this 2618. If you don't think you get through that, you don't have much range to the higher side. I would almost let this one retest higher. Get back into the 2618, 2620 zone, give you some kind of reversal candle. You'll have better risk reward to the downside from here. Um, that would hold you back a little bit. Again, it looks bullish, so maybe the trade doesn't work out. But at least you get some risk reward. So I'd see if we get a little retest in this one, but only probably a little higher. Other than that, that is the morning bell. You guys are absolutely incredible out in YouTube land. Unfortunately, that bell means I got to disconnect. But make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe buttons, and I will catch all you guys on Monday. Be safe. Have a good weekend.